Good morning, Gay City Rotary. How we doing? Fall is here. Everybody excited? Yeah. Fantastic. Let's see. I believe Bobby C., you've got our invitation this morning.
Yes. Let us pray. Lord of the universe, one of your wise ministers said recently, you can judge a person by his checkbook stubs. As Rotarians, we are generally blessed with lives of relative luxury and opportunities unknown to many. Help us to review our checkbooks and indeed the registers of our lives with honesty as we consider our priorities and our opportunity to help others. Open our hearts and our accounts to those in need while still providing us with appropriate fruits of our own labors. Help us to share not only our tangible wealth, but also our intangible riches of knowledge, leadership, and creativity to make our city, our nation, and our world a better place filled with the peace and love that you can bring through us. Amen. Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Of all the things we think, say, and do,
Is the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Well, that Bobby, he's a wordsmith, isn't he? Right off the top of his head. Chris, source yours.
6 guests this morning. Dan Quinn has a guest. I'm not a waiter.
It's been said before. What's the name of your agency?
Samuel, right? Samuel called me a couple of weeks ago, and I totally blew him off. He has a young Vietnamese daughter and is interested in Rotary, and we welcome him. Samuel, I'm sorry to meet you up front. Rob, do you know who your guests are?
They're not sitting with me. John Waldron and John Scolio are good friends of mine. We met through F3, the workout group. John Scolio, the tall one closest to me, works for the Department of Defense, Stars and Stripes magazine. He's in marketing, but he lives here in Greensboro. And so good to have John here. And then my other John, friend John Waldron, is with Volvo. He's the controller at Mack Truck Division. And good to have both Johns.
Todd Nunn is back with us. Justin Mark in this morning.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick, so Todd Nunn's been here before as a visitor. Everybody welcome Todd. Todd hasn't been back for a week or so because he's had a baby. I'm sorry, his wife had a baby. So I'll go ahead and contribute a happy dollar for Todd.
you're going to need it.
John Scramberg. John's with Procter & Gamble. He was a founding member of the South Augusta Rotary Club, but has not been involved in Rotary in North Carolina. So.
And finally, we have a guest from the Crescent Rotary Club.
Baxter.
And there's one more guest here. Reed Perkins is here from the Global Truckers Club.
Welcome, Patrick and Reed. We have a lot of important announcements this morning. The first one that really kind of pertains to our club. Chip, would you speak to the World's Greatest Meal?
Yeah, this coming Sunday, afternoon, predominantly about 4 o'clock, we're going to serve a flat ton of barbecue, brisket, chicken, chili, side dishes, and desserts. we'd like to invite everybody to come out. It's going to be a fundraiser for the world's greatest meal. We will have more food than the team could eat in a month. So, I mean, literally, I'm thinking we might have well over 100 people. We can accommodate more than that. Come on out. We've got live music. Lisa James is playing. Compliment of my good friend Lisa over here, Lisa Simpson. Had a deal that was due her, and she called it in with Lisa Dames. So we have a country and little bluegrass going out there from 4 on, and it'll be fantastic. This is a Rotary fundraiser also, though, because to eat up all this food, we're going to make it our version of the world's greatest meal. None of this have a salad with thin dressing and send $2 off somewhere. Right, Walter? Right. Yeah. So anyway, please come out. Maybe bring a chair. Definitely bring a side and a beverage. But everything else is covered, and park anywhere. There's lots of parking out there. And if you bring your small dog, just be aware Otto has a taste for eaters.
Beware about that. Please do bring a check, and if you bring a check, make it out to the Rotary Foundation.
Should we tell them about making a check to the Rotary Foundation?
We should probably mention that.
Please do.
Okay. All right.
Walt will hound you until you do it.
That's exactly right. And when I get done, Mike Conrad will jump in. Mike Conrad, would you like to go ahead and speak to the foundation?
Oh, yeah. Foundation banquet is, I just got an email yesterday. Registration is now open November 7th. It will be at the Cory Convention Center. Peter Kyle, who's a director-elect, will be the speaker. He's a Peace Fellow, and he's an extremely great speaker. It's at 6 to 9 o'clock, cocktails from 6 to 7, and then the program starts at 7. If you're planning to go, what I'll do is I'll send out an email. If you wish to go, it's $45 a person. And we will send all of our reservations in together, and so that we can sit together. And so just let me know. As I said, I'll send an email out, and all you have to do is respond back to me. Tom Richardson will stroke a check and send it in for all of us, and then he will bill all of us for whoever's attending.
Fantastic. And just a reminder, we will meet next Thursday, same bat time, same bat channel here, or next Thursday, the 24th. And then the week after that, we will not meet because we'll all be going to Pigstock. Okay? Speaking of Pigstock tickets, Dan, do we have tickets that are here?
Now, we have tickets that are here. Rick's got the ticket list for all of the club, so we can get those to Rick. I've got some sponsor tickets today. Because of sponsoring this evening. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So if you need a sponsorship, speak to Dan directly. Let's see, remember that is Billy here? No? We had a sign up available for the, if you guys remember, Bob Crumroy was here a few weeks ago, spoke about bikes for kids. They've got a week that they need people to sign up and help put bikes together. Has anybody gotten a link to that for an invitation? No? Okay, so I think people that signed up on his list got that link. I'll try and make sure, or Steve, somebody will get that link out to the club so that anybody else that wants to sign up to put some bikes together. Basically, you got to turn a wrench, hold some pliers. It's not a really tough thing. You're not building it, putting the chain together. And, it's pretty much just the final assembly of the bike. Yeah, great thing for us to do. Let's see. What else have we got going on in that regard? Yeah, another.
Just briefly, right after our meeting this morning, any of our guests, visitors, you're welcome to stick around for a Discover Rotary meeting. Some of you know about it, some of you don't, but we're going to take about 15 minutes to sit right here in the lobby. Patrick and Reed and I will give you a little information. That way it's 3 clubs represented, so Crescent and Global Directors, so a little bit of information about our clubs. So just right out in the lobby, 15 minutes max.
Great, thank you. Yes, Buster?
I just want to remind everybody that we're accepting club grants for projects that we're involved in, groups we're involved in. We've got $10,000 to contribute. We got a handful, so those are going to be really happy if nobody else contributes. You have till October 28th to get your grant in, and
Where can we find the grant form, Buster?
You may find a grant form, you should have gotten one in an email, but if you did not get a grant form, just let me know. Maybe I'll send out another email with it. Some people have trouble opening it. If you need a copy, just let me know. You do.
Thank you, Buster. Next Wednesday is the Rotarians versus Rotarian wannabes, also known as the Kiwanis, golf tournament. It's at Bryant Park. I believe it's pretty much all day. Ralph and I are going to play. The big news is that the local golf pro, Patrick Geeks, is also going to be swinging a club out there that day. So we're expecting big things. Anybody else who would like to play, any golfers in the group, Dan said he's available and ready to play and bring all of his strokes, which is a ton. Rich, if anybody else wants to play, please let me know, okay? And I'll get you an entry form. We have a football pool this week.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Oh.
We have one other announcement. I guess Judy's not here, but we are hosting a Women in Rotary Discovery Networking reception, wine drinking at Frank's house next Wednesday. So please invite women. I think Judy sent the invitation out.
She did.
Everybody get the invitation?
Good time. Please,
It's next
please
Wednesday.
encourage young women that you know might want to be in Rotary to join us.
Next Wednesday night at Claudia and Frank's house.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, sorry. Dennis?
All right, here we are for this week's results. Some of this was impressive. Some of it, a lot of it was impressive. But starting at the bottom end of this, and I didn't account for somebody not being here for this particular award, if you want to call it that. The two that ended up with 13 was Kelly Harrell and Matt Foster. Well, in Kelly's case,
Got another loser.
in Kelly's case, first of all, he gets the award again for choosing all the same teams on the same, so I don't have to check it. He gets
One of these days it's going to work.
painted M&Ms. So the problem, though, is Matt's not here because he's the one that won the lowest points. So that leaves Kelly. Yes. A double winner this morning. There you go. That's 13.
You got to know how to do it, folks.
All right, here we go for the big one here. Justin Plummer had 18. Mike Conrad had 18. Mark Luttrell had 18. Howard Driggers had 18. Wow. Mike Slane, where are you? Right here. The rookie, he had 18. And they didn't win. I know. Impressive. So, we've got Chip Person, 19. Brian Kaiser, 19. And our Vice President Walt with 19.
Oh, wow.
The tiebreaker goes to Walt.
This comes with a lifetime membership, right? Fantastic. Happy birthdays and anniversaries now.
All right. By the way, the Pigstock tickets, if you want to sign up for those, there's a sign-up sheet on everybody's desk, on everybody's table. And if you see a yellow mark to it, then you've been recorded and you're good to go. But you can add some more to it, or if you hadn't put your name down yet for tickets, be sure to put those down. And I'll pick them up and then we'll get those to you for the event. We've got some anniversaries and birthdays going today. Let's see, first we've got wedding anniversaries and, no, remember birthdays. Here we go. David Craves. David? Yes, sir. And you were happy birthday on the 15th. Yeah, like I said, about Tuesday. Happy birthday, my friend. And we have Guy Rapondo's got one coming up. He does. And John Nozick. Back. John. There he is. All right. Fresh back from the Mediterranean cruise, looking all relaxed. And I think you have a birthday when?
Today.
Oh my gosh, it's time to sing. All right, everybody, all together.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear John. Happy birthday to you.
All right. All right, and wedding anniversaries. Howard Driggers. Yes, sir. Don't forget. Let's see, what's yours?
I couldn't hear what you said.
Wedding anniversary.
Wait, how many years? 2 years.
Good. All right, way to go.
I've been married 15, but.
Yeah. We're not going to tell that. Oh, boy. And
bonding together.
I ran into Grandpappy Lewis the other day, and he said, be sure and tell that grandson of mine he's got a wedding anniversary coming up. But has anybody seen him? There. Grandpappy said, don't forget your wedding anniversary coming up on Sunday. All right, very good, very good. You know what Grandpappy always says?
That's right.
Never mind, I'll let you tell him. And finally,
40 years.
yeah, that's right. Way to go, man.
And then we're flying the road, and Lisa's going to be sainted.
Yeah, that's for living with you for 40 years. She deserves it. And a partner birthday, my lovely bride had a birthday last Saturday. So, and that wraps us up, Mr. President.
Thank you, Rick. You know, there are a lot of clubs in the world, a lot of Rotary clubs, and I think Michael will back me up on this, that sing at every meeting. Yeah, and our club is getting actually almost tolerable. There are also a lot of clubs that drink a lot. And I'm thinking maybe if we did the drinking, we could probably do the singing. It's probably kind of
Bobby Hassel, the leader.
I know we've got a pin up demand for $50.
$50! All right. I got some here. I'm going to sit down. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, my $50. Hey, Wayne, what's up? My $50 for Wayne Abraham here, who has been leading the participatory budgeting effort. I understand this morning they 3 times the number of voters this year than last. And for those of you who don't know about this, this is something where citizens of Greensboro can vote for suggested projects in their district, and the total pot is what, $100,000 per district. So congratulations, Wayne. Good job.
I just want to thank Cheryl and her husband John for allowing Trotter Brothers to install flooring.
Cheryl, I'm going to go ahead and get your dollar, because Cheryl had her dollar last week, and she said that she was so happy to do it.
I had $1 last week.
Okay. Because it goes
I'm
towards.
one step closer to my blue bag.
There you go.
Carpet from
All right, Dan.
You've got $100.
So this afternoon, if you want to see Lisa Dame's pre-music, she and Sean Patch are going to be playing live music at the St. Francis Episcopal Church. It's a fundraiser for Sanctuary House, and you can look on the table. There's a barbecue and Brunswick stew sale going on, live music. So just pass this thing around that's on the table, and if you can swing it, you know, you can freeze the meal and have something to say for later. Make it easy.
Yeah.
All right.
My happy dollar is, as you know, last week we had immediate past District Governor Claudia Kennedy, Frank Spellerhouse, who spoke about polio, and we raised last week $3,400 so far for polio. So I want to thank everybody for your contributions. We have a goal of 4,000. 40 of us have contributed. So that leaves a few left. And if you're going to the World's Greatest Meal, remember, those proceeds will go to polio as well. So we have a $4,000 goal, but guess what? We're going to get to $5,000. There's no doubt about it. So thank all of you, and just think about the children of the world who will not have to worry about having polio because of your donation.
Mike, if somebody writes a check Sunday, who should they make that check out?
The Rotary Foundation. The Rotary Foundation.
All right, well, Kelly wouldn't say this about himself, but what he's done is he's gotten together 3 Rotary clubs. He's pulled them together for JDRF. And I think what's significant about this is we have never had 3 Rotary clubs come together completely focused on one effort. And I think it'd be awesome if this club participated 100%. And I've got a guy who will kick in $1,000 toward this if every member chips in on this. He doesn't care if it's $1 or $5 or $100, but there's $1,000 sitting on this. So Kelly, thank you for what you do. And I wish y'all had been with me when I was in Montana last week and bought that 17.5-inch rainbow trout in the boat. The lake went down about that much.
You could buy those from the boat.
How long was it when you reeled it in?
What's that?
Buster, I hear you say you're going to Rome.
Yeah, go to Rome, yes.
Don't try to drive. I am so glad that I don't drive in Rome.
Thank God it's fall.
No more ticks.
Yeah, that's it is. Well, Grandpappy always used to tell me, he said, the 3 hardest things to say are, I was wrong, I need help, and there's accompanist. Piano player.
Boy, it's hard to follow that one. Hey, I've got the pleasure this morning to introduce our presenter, Cory Phillips. He's a friend of mine, and I first met Cory 10 years ago when I was in Walt's position as president. And Cory worked for O. Henry, or Quaintance Weaver, and he was the coordinator for O. Henry and Proximity. And so he was our go-to guy for anything we had to get set up for the room and all. So it's hard to believe it was 10 years ago. But Cory, although he's not a native of North Carolina, he certainly was raised here and traveled around and came back. Originally born out in California, close to where I was born, in Fremont.
That's right.
And then when he was later married and was having kids out in Jackson, Wyoming, he discovered improvisation. And he didn't tell me how he discovered it, but you might share that. But now he's in Greensboro. He works for a law firm here. He might touch on that in marketing. And he has a side hustle that involves improv. And he actually goes to corporations and uses improv in doing some training he'll tell us about. But he's worked with companies such as Cone Health, UNC, Greensboro, Partnership Property Management, and others, Whole Foods, and some other national companies. But he also uses improv while teaching Sunday school, which is interesting. And so he's going to tell us all about that. He has a wife and 2 kids. And without further ado, Cory.
Thanks, sir. Let me improv here. So I got reconnected with Cory because I saw a magazine article on F3, which I've referenced before. And so Cory used to be a different somatotype. He was a big guy, and he got involved in F3, and he is like Mr. F3 now. He worked out this morning at 5:30, and he actually showered and came. So, anyway.
Almost all of that is true. Maybe not the shower part. So all of our exercises today are going to be close talking exercises. No. Thank you very much. It's good to be back. My first account was Gate City Rotary when I landed back in the executive role, corporate account manager. So it's fun to be back in here. I hope you enjoy your breakfast. So in Wyoming, which as you all know is the epicenter of all things comedy, I worked at a hotel at a ski resort and found myself as a participant in an adult improv summer camp. Anyone here heard of Whose Line Is It Anyway? British comedy show that's now made its way stateside, Drew Carey, all that crew. We did a show twice a year, or twice a week in the peak season, summer and winter, in Jackson, Wyoming, to about 300 people per show, and it was really, really fun. It was fun to get on stage, it was fun to make up stories, it was fun to create a laughter within the audience, but it wasn't until I got to teach it and see it done through the eyes of a child that it really kind of clicked with me that there's something else to improv than just making people laugh. We had a group of middle school students, it was like Breakfast Club Junior, show up at this summer camp, and their goal was to basically deep dive into science. And so the beginning of that project was improvisation. And so we did a 3-hour intensive with them, ran through a couple different exercises, and by the time they were done, they left as one big group. They literally came in as the reject, the jock, the cheerleader, the nerd, the loser, and they left as one group together. It was a really powerful moment to see that. And then 1 week later, I had the exact same opportunity with a group of adults, aging all across the spectrum. And they were school administrators that were called together from across the country, and a couple folks from Brazil, to develop new policies in schools, specifically middle schools. And we did the exact same 3-hour intensive. We were the beginning of their program, of their brainstorming session, and to say that it was a flaming dumpster fire would be an understatement. Watching these grown adults struggle and fight and shut down and combat one another and not seem to understand the idea of getting along and creating out of nothing was very interesting. And I started to wonder why, and then it kind of hit me. These kids were on the front end of being grown-ups. They had been raised to find their gifts, and they hadn't had a chance to test them quite yet, so improv provides an opportunity to test your gifts. But they hadn't been told no in public. They hadn't been embarrassed publicly. They hadn't been shut down. They hadn't failed a class. They hadn't been denied a job. They hadn't been cut free from a job. They hadn't had a marriage that ended. They hadn't lost a child. They hadn't lost a parent, right? So all these things that happen as we become adults start to dim who we are a little bit. We want to protect ourselves, and if we're not seen as brightly, we're not noticed as much, and if we're not noticed as much, we're not put in a space where we're uncomfortable as much. And so improvisation, to me, became this tool where I could work with companies and people and families and Sunday school classes. We don't make up Bible verses. Much. Where I can work with people in a context where I can guarantee them that I will keep them off balance. That is my job as the facilitator. And I can promise them that I will not let them fall. So a couple of examples of using improv. Then we'll play a little bit. I hope you will allow yourself to be a middle schooler again. We'll play a little bit. And then if we have enough time, we'll end with a little bit of a rock and roll concert. Sound good? Yeah. You pick up any book for improv, anything, whether it's facilitating it for corporations or an organization to taking it to stage. There's one sole rule or maxim or adage that you will always read. Does anybody know what it is?
Always say yes.
Close. You got 50% of it. The other half is and. Yes and. Organizations that hire yes people, you are guaranteed to never grow. Because once your vision stops, their vision stops. Organizations that surround themselves with yes-anders are the organizations that thrive. The yes is not yes sir, yes ma'am, whatever you say sir, I'll get it done, yes, yes, yes. The yes is, I hear exactly what you said. I understand why you're saying it to me, and allow me to build upon that and take your vision and we're going to go somewhere together with it. That's a yes-ander. Surround yourself with yes-anders and you will change the world. Surround yourself with yeses and the world will never change. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Secondly, make your partner look good. There's this thing called social media. Anybody heard of it? Picked up my phone this morning. F3, we survive and communicate on Twitter. To do a quick check, saw an article about Trader Joe's opening on the 24th. Hallelujah. 5 comments deep into the article. was no longer talking about Trader Joe's. It was how stupid somebody was for invoking the Bible, and how dumb they were for transgender, and how ignorant that is to... What does that have to do with groceries?
Yeah.
When do we become the society that talks about groceries, and 3 lines into a comment thread, we're insulting everybody's humanity? It makes no sense. So make your partner look good. In F3, we call that no man left behind. In Rotary, I know you have, where are your
Service above self.
Thank you. Service above self. Good improv. The idea always works. So there's those 2 adages, the ones that I usually carry into my work. First things first, Sunday school. We have a Sunday school class where, or a church rather, where in any of the Sunday school classes you can study the Bible, you can talk about the Bible, you can deep dive into specific verses. I wanted a class where we could kind of live that out a little bit. And again, keep people off balance, allow them to test their gifts, but never let them fall. We had a woman who was terrified because her husband of 30 years was going under minor surgery, but he had to be put out. And they had never kind of been separated in that realm before, and she was terrified. So we wound up staging her eulogy, her funeral. We laid her out literally on a 6-foot table and made up stories. We each were characters in her life and eulogized about why we loved her, and the goal was we're going to figure out how she passed. And it turned out after 45 minutes that she had passed after a horrible vacuuming accident after her annual Halloween holiday guacamole party. The vacuum had sucked up the pitch. She went to check it, and somehow reversed polarity, and that was that. At the end of it, she was able to at least come to terms with her emotions. And whether or not she deemed them silly or worthy, that was her choice to make, but we created that space. We had a man who was going through a bitter divorce that just needed to yell, and he just needed to be heard. We allowed him to do that, and we made his character speak only in gibberish. So he got to say whatever he needed to say out loud, but it didn't matter for us to hear because it was all in gibberish. It was a very emotional day. Corporate world. My favorite story ever was in Nebraska. I got to work with Nebraska Medical. They found data that if you remember the name of your rounding the nurse, the last person that you see in the hospital that says, "Doctor says you're free to go home, thank you for trusting us with your care," and then that survey hits your kitchen counter from the mail and you fill out that survey, if you can remember that rounding nurse's name, that score is a 95%. If they don't, it drops down usually to around a 65 percentile. So one person literally has the role of failing or succeeding for the entire organization. These doctors who have been to school for years could not figure out what we would call basic human interaction. So I stood outside of a room and I watched 2 doctors share patient such and such room has debilitating degenerative digestive tract disorder. She's back every other month for our care. She chooses our hospital, drives up from another state just to be with us. In my mind, what do you picture in your mind when you hear those things? How old is she? I envision, after hearing just those details, that this woman was much, much older, that she was probably decrepit, to use a word, would probably come to mind. I rounded the corner with the 2 doctors I was rounding with, and there lay, help me out with my grammar. Yeah, there horizontally was a beautiful young 20-something-year-old girl. And I watched these 2 doctors fumble their way with their texts on their clipboards. How would you describe your pain today? On a scale of 1 to 10, how has your care been here at the hospital? Would you say that you've received excellent care today? Holy cow. Oh. She did say that she offered up a piece of information. I had a bad experience the night before. I won't waste your time getting into that. They dove right into, well, who can we address? What was the name of that person? How do we reprimand them? Let us make this up. She said, I don't want to reprimand anybody. My fiance and I have been coming up here for the past 18 months, every other month, because we generally receive great care. And they kept on going. Well, if you remember a name or anything, and by then I'd had enough. So I rounded the table, or the bed, excuse me, sat down beside her on the windowsill. They had these great bench-like windows, and said, you said fiance. When's the wedding? Well, the wedding was October. Well, that's when I got married. I got married in October. Tell me about that. Why do you drive all the way up here for this hospital when you pass who knows how many hospitals? Well, because of A and B and C. All she wanted was a human connection. She just wanted to be heard. She didn't want to grade her pain. Her pain sucks. Her 6 is my 10 as far as how great I feel. She'll never be above my 6 because of this disease she has. She doesn't want a grade. She wants to be a human. But they missed all of that. So we spent 8 hours together. We drilled them and drilled them and drilled them and rounded again. And we got rid of the clipboards and they got rid of the paper. And my favorite story to tell is that one, because you know what they do now every time they go to see a patient? They go and sit in a windowsill. And no longer is it a doctor standing over you with a clipboard, but I'm a human being at your level. How are you doing today? Great. Awesome, right? It's basic improvisation. Improvisation isn't about being funny and about being witty and clever. It's about being somebody who is a yes-hander that wants to make their partner look good. And we struggle with that so much. There's so many books, where am I here, at Friendly, at Barnes & Noble about, have you read Move My Cheese? Have you read 10 Habits? All great reads, but it's somebody else's lens. So finding people that you can surround that will put their lens on that thought process is pretty powerful. So, yes and. I'm at 8 minutes, right? I'm going to get you out of here at 8 o'clock. Let's do this. Let's skip all the improv yes and stuff, because I'll suggest some books for you. I'd love 5 volunteers that feel comfortable. I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to have you do. Feel comfortable speaking about something ad nauseum. It's your favorite thing or your least favorite thing. So I might say, what's something that you love to talk about?
Chickens.
Perfect. I'll have that person talk about chickens. We're no more than 2 or 3 sentences, but I'd love 5 volunteers to join me kind of right up here. We're going to give this a test. Don't be shy. If you volunteer somebody else, you just volunteered yourself. That's my only rule. Thank you, sir. Excellent. Come on down. 3 more. Just shoulder to shoulder facing the audience, please, gentlemen. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I am sure. I got bacon grease on my shirt, too. A brand new pink shirt.
Something you really like to do or really don't like to do. You'll decide. I'm more or less. Let's start down at the far end. Something that you love that you can speak about ad nauseum.
Barbecue.
Barbecue. Something that you loathe that you can speak about ad nauseum.
Loathe.
Yeah, like for example, people who text and drive.
Bourbon.
People, text and drive's great.
Text and drive. You feel comfortable 2 or 3 sentences at a clip? All right.
problem.
Something you love.
And children.
Children. Something you loathe.
Oh, I wanted love.
Chicken.
I wanted love.
Bad chicken.
Not having children.
Yeah. Not having children. The fox that comes to get the chickens.
Micromanaging.
Micromanaging.
Yes.
Excellent. Something that you love.
Making lighted Christmas balls.
I've heard a story.
There we go.
That's going to be good.
So these are all things that you feel comfortable, you know them well enough to talk about them 2 or 3 sentences at a clip. Excellent. Now, you tell us, when I point to you, all the things you loathe about barbecue, the things that you love about texting and driving, the things that you love about micromanaging, and the things that drive you nuts about those Christmas balls. So this is my notice. I will conduct them. I will simply point and cut you off and point to the next. I may cut them off mid-sentence. That's fine. No harm, no foul. You may find, as you struggle through this together, that there's a common thread that starts to happen. You may not. That's okay as well. If it happens, wonderful, you're trained professionals. If not, great, we're all still going to laugh. This is why we laugh. We're not laughing at you. We're laughing near you. We're not laughing at you. You are going to struggle a little bit. And we have all struggled in one way, shape, or form in our life, and we're going to resonate with that. This is a dated reference. Anybody remember when Bill Cosby came to the Coliseum and caused everybody to stand on their feet with laughter and applause because he went to the dentist? Everyone's heard that routine? Obakavy? Fiber in my mouth, right? We've all been in the dentist chair. We relate to that story. It's humanizing for us. We understand it. We're going to struggle with them a little bit too, and it'll happen. So, barbecue. Don't tell me. Texting and driving. Children. Micromanaging Christmas balls. Ready? I'll take a knee.
Let's go.
Let's do this.
So I hate it when I miss special moments with my kids because I'm so caught up in my agenda.
Good.
Yeah, because it takes so doggone long to cook that barbecue, you don't get a chance to do anything else during the day.
But if I'm texting and driving, I can communicate with people right up front. How I like my barbecue cooked. How I like.
You know, I bought about 5 miles of chicken wire in my life. But what really sucks is every year when I call Lowe's Home Improvement and they ask me, now what is that model number again?
What I really love about being micromanaged is that she cares about it. She's annoying and she's got an attitude. She just cares about me.
What I hate again?
Yes, sir.
I hate when I don't listen to my children when they say
He's
something
really
important.
conniving at this. Very good.
Texting and driving saves me so much time. I don't even have to sit at home and listen to my wife.
You know, what I really hate about it is having to ask all those old women at Wellspring if they've had their tetanus shot.
And then you get to trim the fat.
Well done. Any comments from you all how that kind of felt? Talking about something that you know very well, but having it spun on.
Well, it's a little bit true, those false things.
Yeah.
I mean, all of it.
Maybe see it through their lens, someone else's lens.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anything you all observed? Nothing?
These guys are already good at this.
Yes.
You got the 5 non-shots up here.
That's good, that's good. Thank you, gentlemen, appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'll tell Justin he should be proud of you. No matter what he says.
Well, that'll be the first time he said something good about me.
I'll refer to everybody else on that one. All right, so last things last, right? And then we'll open up for any questions you might have. Oftentimes when I get to work with different organizations, the first thing in their mind is like, why is this person doing improv? I'm not funny, I'm not witty, I'm not worthy. And to me, it's a way to tap into, like we talked about, your gifts, right? So we, at least I do, at the law firm, I work at Crumley Roberts, and I was brought on to come up with a different way to engage the community. They write a lot of checks for a lot of different great organizations. What they found is that the only people who knew about those great organizations were the upper echelons, the decision makers of where those checks went. They have 120 people here in Greensboro, over 200 across the state, and now they're going into Birmingham. And you want to talk about trying to manage a company culture that way. It's really hard. So what I was brought on to do was develop programming that echoed what we do as a law firm, which is personal injury, to the younger audience. How do we practice what we preach? How do we keep people safe? So bike helmets was the first thing. That initiative existed before me. But what else can we do? What else can we teach and pass on to kids that lets them know that we care about them, A, but that we're also good stewards of our mission. And so that's what I do 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. I get to tour across the state. Today I'll be in Rural Hall teaching 300 kids hands-only CPR. Because it matters to us. If we put ourselves out of a personal injury law firm, we'll find something else to defend. I know enough about lawyers to know that to be true. When you can tap somebody into their gift, it really opens them up to not only what you're trying to achieve, but certainly what they're trying to achieve, and then what we are trying to achieve. So, here's the example I'll leave you with. What if you grew up your entire life believing that a guitar was meant to hit wiffle balls? Spoilers, you're going to want to pay attention right now. Okay? Right? You're never going to miss. You've got a great grip. Huge surface here. Sounds probably pretty cool. Nice shot. Almost all the way to the cheap seats on that one. I'm not doing any damage to the guitar. Is that ball damaged at all?
It's got a few holes in it.
Yeah? It's probably not for me. There we go. Wow, 2 for 2! I'm going to change my trajectory. And it's totally fine. You can go through your entire life believing that a guitar was meant to hit wiffle balls. There's nothing wrong with that. But what if for one moment you trusted the instrument for the reason it was meant to be? Right? That's when the people hear the music. And it sounds different for everybody. It's not, my song isn't the same as your song, isn't the same as your song. We all have our own special abilities that over time, for a myriad of different reasons, we tune out because we don't want to be seen as obviously, because by God, we might get hurt, we might fail. Well, improv to me has been a tool and an outlet for A, to help people find their song, but B, also to remind them that, there's my timer, to remind them that we are called to not just be a solo song, but to harmonize together. And that sounds all touchy-feely, and it certainly comes off that way. But at the end of the day, if you can surround yourself with people who have failed and understand that the only way you truly fail is if you didn't learn a dang thing from it, move forward through the failure, that's how you grow as a leader, and that's how your organizations, that's how your vision, that's how your goals are achieved. And wouldn't it be great when it comes to improv and storytelling and things like that, that my generation would listen to your generation and learn a thing or two about being bold and failing and knowing that I'm going to be off balance, but that you're not going to let me fall. So thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Cory, thank you very much. That was a fantastic program. Thanks for engaging everybody. And you guys stick with your day jobs. Cory,
Play that ukulele?
What's that?
Please pull one ticket for us for our Queen of Arts. Can you read the last 4 digits?
Last four. 6103.
After me.
6103.
Finding all these shirts and everything.
103? Yeah.
You got it?
Yes! Okay, get to know Rotary right now, right just outside.
It's almost